Streamlabs, what are you doing? There we go. Nice. Alright, let's go triple, quadruple, billion D times, check that it's working. Because last time it didn't for some reason. Probably because it's 2020 and everything hates me. Let's go double mega check. Does it show me as live? It does. It's a Christmas miracle. Okay. So earlier, I was working on this base for my night, and none of it recorded, which is great. So basically, this is about $4 worth of terrain bits I got from a bit reseller, and hacked all apart. There's a little bit of cork in here. There's a little bit of just like dirt ballast that's sort of fallen off because it's not the best held on. And then we got some magnets on the bottom to hold the knight on. So my knight is too big for the camera apparently. She's a chunky boy. So he just clicks in right like that, right in the base. So he'll have a nice little spot to stand around. And he's looking all fancy. He's got all the movements. He can come all apart, swap all his bits in and out. Everything on him is pretty much magnetized, mostly because the posing is fun, and so I can also change some parts with my other knight for him. So my husband had gotten me 2 knights for Valentine's Day, the other one being a Chaos Knight. So a bunch of these have sort of generic colored pieces, like the big ass Gatling gun or his chest gun here. They don't really match the armor color. That's so they can swap between the 2 different knights I have. So if I wanted, a Chaos Knight with a minigun, I could just take this off, give him something else, put it on the Chaos Knight. Same thing for the top gun. Again, fully magnetized. And then the plates, swap it out like that. So pretty darn cool. He's got a custom mask that I built out of a couple different knight masks, and a bunch of green stuff there, and then decals, weathering, a bunch of battle damage. He's my baby. I've been working on this guy for a while. It took me a long time to come up with what I want to do with him. So I had recently won the Oahu kit bashing competition, and they gave me 2 pieces of criticism with the model I entered, which was a Knight Castellan converted into a Morkanaut. Essentially, my friend Knight Castellan got blown up in the first game, and he got really angry at it, wanted to trade it. So I was like, he called me at like 1 a.m. and was like, "Please trade my knight." I was like, okay. So I chopped that all apart with a bunch of work bits, turned it into a Morkanaut. It's got magnets, it's got LEDs, it's pretty damn cool. But they gave me 2 pieces of criticism. The first one being that I suck at mold lines, which is 100% true, and is one of the reasons I've been delaying working on my Khorne Berserk or my Khorne Demons, because they just have a billion mold lines on them. Also, I don't know which flavor of Khorne Demon I want to do yet. If I want to do mustard, if I want to do ketchup, or if I want to do Thousand Island, but we're just deciding that still. So the other piece of criticism they gave me is that the base was very simple. Now I'd made the base on that guy really simple because I wanted him to match my orcs, who are on super simple bases because they're one of the first models I painted. But that means that I also wanted to improve it since they're, and do nicer bases. So I picked this up, these bits up, and sort of worked them into this broken kind of motif after getting the idea from Inquisitor Martyr. So you get to play a knight in that called the Crimson Wanderer, and he's very, very cool. But you crush through lots of buildings, which is very fun. So I thought it'd be cool to have my knight doing the same thing. So when he goes on the base here, it's better to show here. All of the chunks and stuff are sort of supporting him, but none of them are in the way. It's one of the things I don't really like about a lot of fancy bases. and detract from the model. So I sort of wanted them all on, or like out of the initial view, but still there as nice accents. So I base coated this earlier, not base coated. I primed this earlier today with Wraithbone, and I'd pretty much be happy to paint in details and then wash this as is, and then do texture paint and stuff. But some of the dirt that I had used for extra grit and stuff sucked up the paint really, really bad. So you can still see that it's red underneath. So I have to take care of that first. So we, because I don't have any Wraithbone up here, we are going to use some Drake Tooth, and we're going to dry brush into those sections. We're also going to move this knight because I don't want him to get dry brushed. Move, Gundam, move. Ugh. There we go. You can get out of the way. Alright. So, behold my beautiful palette. There we go. So it's going to be a slightly different color, but it should be going on nice and light, so it shouldn't really matter. So, get a little on the brush, and then we pull some of it off. Okay? We're going to see if this is going to work. It might be too rough and pull some of the pieces off, which is exactly what it's doing. Okay, back up and punt. Not pulling any off the brush. That's going to give some better coverage. But it's not going to be really dry brushing anymore. It's just going to be painting with a makeup brush. But at least it's not going to be red now. And the color is not too bad. Once I do the base textures and stuff in the texture paint, it should look very much like architecture and stuff, which is really good. This is not the most useful use for this brush. Let's see if we have a better brush for this project instead. Something really beat up. Actually, not a bad brush. What about you? Come on, give me a crap brush here. Yeah, that'll do. Behold, crap brush. Alright, I'm gonna put this on a little thicker. What dirt. Now, the idea of this dirt is that it's supposed to be sort of the chunks and the pieces that broke off, you know, as the towers are coming down and all the architecture is breaking apart, and it's, you know, they're just making dust and particles and all this kind of nonsense everywhere. That's sort of what that's supposed to be. You know, because the texture paint that I'm going to use, I'm just going to use some Citadel texture paint, either brown or tan, I'm not sure which yet. You know, that paint is it's awesome, but it's you know, it's the ground, right? It's not this part of the broken structures. It's not this bit of rubble, you know, or this natural side effect of there being a bunch of rubble. So we're gonna focus on painting that part first, and then we'll do the everything else. Actually, with the dry brush, it's actually working really good, so we'll break that out again. Now, if I didn't want to paint this tonight, I really should have just sprayed it again and sprayed the dirt again. But I don't know, I was kind of in the mood to get this guy done. you know, with him being a gift and all, he's a model I put a lot of time into. But so kind of really, once everything opens back up and we're done with Corona, I want to make sure this guy's done enough that I can play with him. I really like. I've never gotten to use them yet, although I essentially have 3 of the fucking things. Never actually gotten to use Knights yet. But I really like the idea of them, sort of like one big model, less like little fiddly things you need to remember, one more like big whole character. I think that's pretty cool. So, you know, so one of the reasons I actually did this guy, I did this knight that I have as a free blade is because I liked the idea of the character. I also gave him a neat bit of utility. So, I saw an old GW magazine, one of the first White Dwarfs. One of the first White Dwarfs, and it was talking about having a game between primeval, or like not primeval, medieval. Sorry, medieval like orcs. You know, like bone splitters, maybe something like that. These sort of ancient, kind of crappy orcs with spears and, you know, riding pigs and stuff, and having that fight a bunch of space marines. And I was like, you know, that's in the Warhammer world. That's actually like a thing that actually exists. You have sort of this disparate wave of technology. You know, when orcs first start going, before they sort of start ransacking the planet, you know, they're fighting with spears and stuff, and I was like, that's really cool. You know, and I got in my head, like, what if there's this knight that's sort of like protecting a city from that kind of stuff? You know, like some agro world out there that keeps getting attacked by like Tyranids or orcs, or, you know, like some kind of like Xenos, like lizard man or Skaven or something, you know. What if there's a sort of a knight that's protecting this shitty world? I really liked that idea. I thought it was super cool. You know, she's sort of like, you know, the world's only bastion against like insanity of the galaxy and old crap. You know, just thought it was a cool idea. The idea of this like lone knight was very, I don't know, kind of a romantic idea. So I liked it. I also liked the idea of maybe taking just a knight as a crusade army, because he's knights basically 25 power level, or you can build them so that they're 25 power level. And I thought it was really neat. It would be a really cool idea to take one, you know, like he's out there looking for a final battle to die in, or, you know, he's a lost knight and his house has collapsed or something, and, you know, he's out here looking for his final cause kind of thing, some reason to keep going. I was like, that's a really, really fun idea too. I've broken some of the ballast top. There we go. Alright, so that's all the stupid chunks painted. So now we'll get, where'd that brush go? There it is. Alright, my $2 makeup brush from Walmart. It's a Wet n Wild, which is best brand name ever. We'll get some of the wall done. Basically just going to use this like a big brush. Coming back in and doing all the metal details and stuff, so, you know, but I want all the architecture to match. Alright. Do here too. On camera that probably looks like it's basically the same color, but it's not. It's actually considerably different. Wraithbone has a yellow tinge to it, but only when you apply it really, really thick. Otherwise it's a very like off-white kind of eggshell color. This is just like pure yellow. Very, very, very yellow. which is fine because honestly, the knight having a bunch of off-white on him, which I think is Army Painter Brain Matter Beige, I think that's that color. But him having a bunch of that, you know, I don't really want the walls and stuff to be the same color. So I'm just trying to get a nice basic coat on here. This is going to be getting a full wash and full detail painting next, so you know, the wash is going to tie anything I miss together as long as it's not super egregious, so it should be fine. Now on the knight I have silver, gunmetal, bronze, copper. So I basically used every metal color. So unfortunately there's not going to be a metal color I can grab for this that will really stand out from him, unfortunately. So there's going to be some repeated tones here in the base for him. Something I really didn't want, but don't have a choice because I've used so many colors on him. I gotta do the back here. I just need just the tiniest bit. Okay. Try to keep that on camera. Still trying to get the hang of that. Let's get in there. Go. Get here. Get there. Get everywhere. Okay, cool. Alright, we'll call that done. Alright. Now let's start picking out some details. Let's see, what choices we got? We've got Shining Silver. We have, where's Brassy Brass? Did I move it? Maybe it's over here. Let's see. We've got True Copper. It's the color I use for all my Nurgle bells and stuff. Tinny Tin, which is sort of a nice brown kind of metal color. Brassy Brass, which I guess is actually called Bright Bronze. I fucking love this color. This color covers so well and is so bright. Very easily one of my favorite paints. It also comes out super thick, but that's okay. Alright, so let's start picking out some details. So it's a couple different pieces of kind of details. So we have these metal sort of strips here and bits there and that kind of thing. We have them around all the pillars. We've got this big metal block here. It's probably going to be silver. These strips are probably going to be Tinny Tin. And then we have some like gubbins here, some wires, some tanks. We have these windows. They're also going to be tin. So I'm going to start picking out a couple of the details in Brassy Brass, just so I can sort of get a feeling. And we'll probably have to go back and clean this up again, but I don't know, trying to wrap my head around the bits I have in this model. And I already knocked out the Brassy Brass because I'm dumb. I really should have done this last, but too bad. So there we go. One of the problems with priming with a bright color is it gets all down in the holes and makes the holes really bright, which is great if you want that, but if you don't, it sucks. Alright, and then we'll pick out I don't know, maybe these. So you always, when you're painting these things, you always want to grab a couple of different things, a couple of different details, and pull them out. So like if you have a whole big chunk of silver or something like that, you want to make sure you grab something out of it just to break it up visually to the eye a little, especially if it's an alternate color. So these pipes here, I'm probably going to do those in red, because red will look really good when I dirty this down with the washes, and it will also stand out a lot against the sort of all the metallics that are going to be used. Yeah, I shouldn't have done this stage right now, but oh well. Making do with what we got, right? Do some of these pipe fittings. They had like promethium or something at one point in time. And it had to be copper. I don't know, man. Just something to break up so this whole thing isn't just silver. We'll do those as well. Go. These guys, they're going to get painted as the same, but that'll just get covered over when I do it right now, so we're going to worry about that later. Alright. Bigger brush time. Pulling out the silver. Shining silver is a very nice color. Covers very well for an painter metallic, because some of theirs have trouble, such as true copper or their golds. Their golds are very nice, but they require 2 or 3 coats, which, I mean, you know, that's fine, but I'm a pleb and will lots of times just paint right out of the bottle, like I'm doing now, like a boss. So boop boop doo 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 doo. Yep. Go. Just working on that silver. So you'll see this brush fan of with brushes. So I like to just sort of be able to use them and, you know, throw them on the table, wash them out, throw them on the table. Like the less time, ooh, that's weird. Bunch of loose paint there. The less time I sort of have to spend kind of thinking about them instead of painting my model, I'm happier. So, you know, I'll kill a couple of these every couple of months. But, you know, they're so cheap to replace. Like, for the cost of a good brush, I can get an entire pack of crappy brushes off Amazon and be more than happy doing that. So it means that sometimes I get a little beat up. So like this one, you can see some loose hairs and stuff on it, but yeah, it'll do a good enough job. And if I start to do something really fancy, I'll grab a new one out of the pack and move on from there. Okay. So some silver blocked in there. Then we'll do the same thing here. Just start, you know, just sort of slowly working through the details. Go. There we go. big stuff like this, super good. While I'm learning to try to paint on camera, because it's not super tight details. I'm really used to pulling like everything like right to my face, and I didn't even realize that I did that. But the nice thing is that, learning to paint on camera, you can't really do that. But with these nice big projects, I can sort of get the hang of keeping stuff a little bit further away, keeping it so I can still see it, and I don't have to worry about messing up the feathers on like Lord of Change or some massive model or whatever. Don't have to worry about messing it up. There we go. And in truth, I'm not really a big terrain or bases kind of guy. I have some terrain I painted for playing at home, the Warcry terrain, and I have a set for Kill Team, which could also be used for small 40k. But terrain and stuff's not my jam. I'm not like out here building ziggurats out of deodorant cans or whatever, trekking down foam and all that kind of stuff. I'd started to look into it a little bit back when I was in the mainland, but that was mainly for D&D. So I feel like having a bunch of really varied terrain is important for D&D. Sure, characters go to different locations, but as I don't play D&D now, I really only need enough to play a game or two at home. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So let's just to get more of a color profile on this already. Let's knock in some of the tinny tin. So this is going to darken it down considerably once we start getting this in on the metal. And the darker metal should tie in really well once everything is washed with that Grexer shade. Yes, my one question for this is still, what color texture paint am I going to use? I've got like a brown, I've got a gray, I've got some reds, I've got like a sand kind of color. The building color would tie in nicely to the sand color as well, but don't know if I want to do the sand color. Yeah, I'm not sure. I like sort of muddy bases a lot. I think it's really fun to do like mud puddles and stuff out of resin, where you pretty much take like Vallejo still water or some other kind of sort of self-setting thing where you don't have to cure it with UV, and you mix it with basically not texture paint. You mix it with essentially contrast paint, because it's semi-opaque and it produces a really cool liquid effect. The Corn Demons that I showed off earlier, they're all going to be based in sort of these rivers of blood, which is going to be Vallejo still water with contrast paint in it, and then blood for the blood god over the top of that to make it kind of chunky. I'm gonna finish painting them up, and I want to get some skulls and some bones and stuff for them too, so it'll not just look like they're standing in like pizza sauce or something. It'll kind of convey the idea over to the user a little bit better. It's one of the ideas of, selling the idea to the user is super important. It's not always about how well something's painted. Lots of times it's just about how much the idea sort of immediately comes across. Like if they see it, if it's like boom, they instantly know what it is, kind of thing. And making a red base, putting some corn demons in it, and then putting some skulls in it, I feel like sells that idea really well. There's a concept called ideas, or vectors for interaction. That's it. It's pretty much how you describe a open handshake. It's the expected reaction and the expected interaction with a person. So when you're painting a model and you're selling a concept with that model, giving the users sort of an immediate way to recognize what it is and interact with it is super important. It's a lot of the ideas that people see with like popular color schemes and stuff. They proliferate around the Warhammer community or the Gunpla community. They usually have really, really strong vectors for that. So, for example, like Sandstone Necrons are a really, really good example. 1, they look nice. 2, they're simple to do. And 3, you can look at it and immediately know what it is. The idea is in concept, like intrinsic to the user. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're like robots, but they're made out of sand. Which sounds kind of dumb when you say it like that, but they immediately can tell what's going on. It's sort of more enjoyable for them. You do this a lot when you're designing products. You think about how you want the user to interact with your product, or how they're going to potentially interact with it. What is your desired outcome? You try to build that into the design. Man, this is taking longer than I thought it would. Swap of brushes. It's a brush size thing. I need to clean that up, but I'll get some of it done at least a little bit quicker. Just using it like a really ghetto artist opus brush. Man, those things are cool. I love how it's just ranting about using cheap ass brushes and only wanting to use cheap ass brushes, and then I'm like, man, artist opus brushes are cool. Ugh. IT. Where's it at? There we go. Tasco brand. Pretty great, not gonna lie. One of those things you just never see back in the mainland. But literally every store out here has it. It's great. Alright. Yeah, the reason I think the art surface brushes are neat is they sort of facilitate kind of a different way of painting. I watched a YouTuber named Curioth do some painting with them, really neat stuff. I tried to actually do a similar effect to what he was doing with just regular dry brushing on one of my other models. I couldn't get it to line out no matter how hard I tried. So I ended up doing them in a different way. That was my Chaos Space Marines, and I ended up doing them sort of as a mix of different chapters. I was quite happy with how they came out. Oh man, I've been painting for 37 minutes and this thing ain't nowhere near done. God damn. I mean, guess it's not really that far off, but kind of thought this would go quicker. It's not a bad thing to be painting though. Have to clean up there where the brush missed, but it's okay. Go. Could paint those like they're real skulls, but I like the idea that they're like just sort of in the motif a little bit more. Alright. Yeah, I'm really not like a super into terrain guy. I know some people love it, but just not for me. And people like to make boards and they like to do all that kind of stuff, but not my jam. I think in my brain I associate a little bit more with like scale modeling, like trains and stuff. That's one of the reasons I don't really like it. I feel like everyone has little sort of hobby biases and hang-ups. I'm not the biggest fan of like actual war models and stuff. I don't know why. I don't know. Feels a little weird to want to be like, yeah, these are my bad guy models that committed all these real, atrocities and stuff. It feels weird. I mean, hey, some people like it. There's the running joke that like 45, everyone gets this like scale modeling itch. It's like some kind of like dad game or something, but not for me. Plus, I mean, you don't have cool shit like this dude, right? Like, you know how fucking cool this dude is. It's a fucking giant robot space bear monster. It's cool as hell. Can't use that in fucking World War II game. Well, I mean, I guess technically you could, but I like to see the Allies try to stop that. Alright. After this bit of tinny tin, I'll probably swap and do some wires just to do something else. Keeping it fresh when your painting is super important. Lots of times something that's very hard to do. And you have a bunch of guys that are all essentially in uniforms, you know, how do you keep them interesting to paint? You know. So in a Facebook group, and the question came up recently, how to best batch paint. You know, when you can't stand it. You've got to paint like 40 orc boys or whatever. You know, the secret is that you know, you shouldn't be batch painting models like that. That's really the secret. So what you do is you develop a varied color palette. So you say, okay, everyone's belt is this color, everyone's gun is this color and this color, you know, everyone's, you know, shoulder pad is this color, whatever. And then you say, okay, well, these guys aren't wearing a uniform, so that means that I can make all of their shirt colors different. So you make a varied palette for that one particular piece of the model, and every time you go to paint one, you grab a different color for it. So you never batch paint this piece. You know, so you'll go through and you'll paint all of their boots, you'll paint all their belts or whatever, you know. And then when you're tired of that, you go, okay, I'm going to paint some shirts, you know, and you pop out some blue or tan or whatever color you feel like doing, and you knock out a couple of shirts with that color until you run out of that paint. And you go back and you're like, alright, now it's time to keep going. And you're like, alright, I'm going to do some more boots, I'm going to do some more belts, I'm going to do some more guns now. And that's what you do. And it keeps you essentially from burning out while you're batch painting. So you don't really, I don't know, it's like you don't really batch paint then, or you do, but with like variation in it. I don't know. That's how I sort of always get through it. You know, it's very hard with some models that are very, very similar. It's one of the reasons I have a bunch of Thousand Suns. They are literally the only models I've never finished painting, or have really started painting, which is a real shame. I actually went and bought the Start Collecting box for them 1 year ago today. Which, yeah. But one of the reasons is that I have trouble sort of getting that to work with them. Getting the variation to work with them, because they're all so similar. You know, they're supposed to be similar. They're automatons, but they're also very, very complex models. So painting that many of them, having them be that similar, and then having that be like intentional, it kind of broke me. Yeah, I'll figure out a good scheme for them one day. I've done a bunch of different ones, but just have not found one that I liked. So I probably should be leaving this yellow. But the user that looks at this model will never know that there's actually a small piece of stuff there, and it will look better just in the brown than it will being messed up when I try to paint it correctly. You know, it's one of those things. I was looking at someone's Keeper of Secrets recently, and they were clearly so concerned with the model and so concerned with getting the lining right that they underpainted all the lining. So like there's the model's wearing like thigh highs essentially. It's a cool model, really cool model. I will probably pick one up one day because I have some Slanesh demons from my Wrath and Rapture box I got. But it's essentially wearing like thigh highs, and the problem is that the person, they didn't want to spill over the lines, so they underpainted all the lines. And it's like, oh man, underpainting looks worse than spilling over a little bit. As long as you're not spilling over a ton, underpainting always looks worse because the user can see the light difference on the edge of whatever you're painting. So if you're painting filigree on, say, a Space Marine, right, and you say you're painting in his Aquila, which is the little part on their chest, so you're painting in one of those, and Taitita, and you don't paint it fully. Yeah, I'll keep on with this color. Why not? I'm fun. So you don't paint it fully, and you wind up with a little bit of blue around the whole edge. And when light hits that, a user's going to see it, and they're going to see that worse than if you had just slightly overpainted the Aquila, right? And really, you should try to keep it perfectly in the lines, but just from like a functional, this is what a user's going to see thing, it's going to stand out worse to them. This is sort of one of the reasons why a lot of people like object source lighting, because they like, oh, I'll just paint the area, around the eye, and it can be messy or whatever, and it'll be like a glow. When in truth, really, it looks pretty crappy, because usually people don't do it controlled. Like if you had that idea that you're gonna say, oh, I'm gonna purposely overpaint this, and it'll be a glow or whatever. If you were to just slightly do it, it would sell it a lot more than some of the overpainting a lot of people do. Man, listen to me ramble. I'm gonna have to clean up all these edges too. And I was just like, man, overpaint your edges. It looks better than underpainting them. And I screwed up every one of them. What is my life? Talking to a camera at midnight while I paint a base for a night. Not that bad, actually. That's pretty good. But yeah, so I'm just gonna keep knocking this out, and I will post some pictures when she's all done, because I have a lot of this to do still. So yeah, but as I'm almost painting for an hour and got basically nothing done, yeah, thank you for presumably watching this later. More tinny tin for me.